All right, hey VC, Dr. Robert. I'm going to try to keep my head down, avoid that reflection there. Woo! See what I can do. Just got back from Capetown. It was a 36-hour trip, more or less. Flew through Amsterdam. Bit of a messy travel tale. But we made it, and here we are. So I just wanted to put this video up. I'm going to do really what happened to me in Capetown was the theme of pursuing Rodriguez, which obviously other people have done for years prior and in much greater with greater success and with greater dedication. Of course, now he's passed away a year ago, so it's not like I'm going to be able to get in touch with him. But I ended up getting in touch with some of the people who dug him out, knew him when he was alive in South Africa. And so I'm going to put those videos in ahead of showing a little bit. I did have some success finding Rodriguez records in South Africa. And so that piece was also fun. But I also dug in to his personal history. And so I'm going to show some of that as well. And that's what I got. Hang on. Hey guys, it's Dr. Robert. I'm in Capetown, as I think a lot of you are already aware, and I've been to a few record stores today. Was able to make it to Revolution Records here in Capetown, and had an interesting conversation with the owner, Charles. This is again a family-run business, is a father-son business, and I think we've been talking on Rachel's stream about Rodriguez records and how impossible they are to find in the States. I've had some luck here, but today really a highlight was hearing Charles' personal story about his interactions with Rodriguez. And so with that, tell us your background and how that came about.
Okay, it's quite interesting. Basically, as you said, this is a father-son business. I've only come into the business because I'm actually a muso myself. Previously, I'm now in retirement and I'm managing the business for my son, basically. Previously, I was manager of 46 BMW up in Tiger Valley. And so I was a car dealer, and we had the BMW brand. And we got a phone call one day from the people who were hosting Rodriguez, and they needed someone to take him for a drive around the peninsula, show him the sights and that type of thing. So I had this more elderly salesman who picked up the phone, and someone said to him, listen, we want you, can you do something for Rodriguez? And he said, who the hell is Rodriguez? He said, I better call my manager. And he knew I'm a musician, you see. So I came on the scene, and he said, listen, there's someone here talking about some guy called Rodriguez. And I said, hold that phone. I said, listen, you're talking about the holy thing here. Anyway, and so I came in and met the organizers, and I ended up spending a day with him. One of the most humble people ever. Absolutely brilliant, lovely soul, and so that's basically how I came, to do the thing.
And what year was that?
I really can't remember.
Don't remember?
It's a good, must be at least 20 years.
20 years ago, yeah.
I'm 73 now.
Yeah.
I was in my early 50s at that stage. And this was before the Searching for Sugarman movie came out.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you said you listened to a cover version of Sugarman with him?
Yes. While I was driving him, I had also friends of mine who knew I was going to be seeing him, gave me copies of the records for him to autograph, which he did most gracefully. And anyway, and I also had a CD of a local band called Just Ginger, and they do a cover version of Sugarman, and I played it for him, and he was dead quiet after listening to it, and I said to him, well, what do you think? And he said, I like the way they made it their own.
I love your American accent.
Anyway, so that's the story.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. And a lot of memorabilia here in your store. I really enjoyed seeing that. And again, the father-son aspect of your business, I think, is great. And really congratulations on your involvement here in the music world over many years.
Okay,
And thanks for taking some time.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. Does this young man want to say something? He's been smiling and enjoying our conversation. Nice to see you. Okay, one more time. This is the Atlantic Ocean. We are on top of what is called Table Mountain, just outside of Cape Town. That is the southern edge of Cape Town there. And I've said the Atlantic Ocean. And then if you follow the shoreline, that is the southern tip of the African continent there, underneath some clouds and behind some further mountains. So to the right, the Atlantic Ocean, and over there to the left, the Indian Ocean, and the southern tip of the African continent. And this area, Table Mountain, was declared a natural preserve or some sort of a natural wonder. I'm not sure of the title, but was declared by Nelson Mandela to be that during his time as president here in the 1990s. And I have to say, it is just spectacular. Okay. Found it. Okay, so we are out on the balcony here at Mabu Records with the founding owner of Mabu Records, Jacques.
Yeah.
And we've just been having some conversation. There's a little bit of street noise, which I think only adds to the character of the filming. And you may be able to hear in the background, we've got Cold Fact by Rodriguez on the turntable here. So Jacques, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to start this record store?
Yeah, no problem, man. So I started the store 24 years ago, 2000, in the back of my father's second-hand shop. Made some space, put some records on the tables, invested a whole of 600 Rand in buying a collection, and pretty much started from there.
Wow.
Came up with the name, which is Chinese. It's a Chinese name. It means strong foundation for me, but it is a Kung Fu stance. I've subsequently found out that in Sepede it also means rich soil.
Yeah.
So I quite like it that it has actually got a South African connection to it too. The logo doesn't mean anything. I just made that up. It means strong foundation to me, so that's what the logo means.
Right. It looks like a Chinese character
It
or
does.
an Asian character.
It does,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, in both phrases, strong foundation and fertile soil.
Right.
Not bad.
yeah. My intentions were kind of in that line, and my intentions were always with the store towards like the direction of music and love and people.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it was a good coincidence.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning that for a time you and your father were partners in the store.
No. I started it in his shop,
store.
but he didn't partner with me.
I see.
We actually shared a shop
I see.
for 2 years, like literally split it down the middle and split the rent down the middle and everything.
Interesting.
But then after that 2-year move, my father closed his shop down and retired.
I see.
And we moved to a new premises, and that's where I met Stephen. Well, that's where Stephen became involved and
Yes, right.
became my partner.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Steven Sugarman.
Sugarman, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and hopefully we'll get a chance to chat with him today as well. So one of the things that I find interesting is that is an interesting conversation with a lot of people in vinyl is sort of the resurgence of vinyl.
Yes.
I mean, it's finally in the States kind of taken off the last 5 years or so. How is that affecting what you're seeing here in South Africa?
Well, with vinyl, for me, there's a big distinction between used vinyl and new vinyl. So I think new vinyl is taking off. New vinyl's taking off in the States. It's slowly but surely like becoming fairly, what's the word? In South Africa, the vinyl's quite expensive. So
Yeah.
it's still niche for only people who can afford because new vinyl is pricey once
Pricey.
you've worked in all the expenses, which is why we stick to vintage vinyl
Right.
and a little bit of new stuff. And there's a strong following of vintage vinyl because it's more affordable.
Right.
Your average Joe can pick up a couple of records for a couple of $100.
Right.
So it's grown and it's continuing to grow, and also it kind of helps to have something like Sugarman as a story
Oh yeah.
in the shop's history
Right.
to kind of just still keep the flame burning and keep people coming into the store that aren't necessarily just looking for records.
Oh, yeah.
So we do get visitors in that might buy a music book or a CD or just a sticker or a t-shirt because they've actually heard the story and they're coming to actually absorb the atmosphere of the store. So we get a good balance of people in.
Yeah, interesting. So have you noticed any younger people starting to enter, coming in?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Man, collecting vinyl. The youngsters,
Yeah.
they're starting young.
Yeah.
They are, man. They're. I don't want to give an average age, but there are. Let's just say there are a lot of 16-year-olds buying vinyl
Interesting.
currently.
Yeah.
And also maybe 18, 19-year-olds getting into it, students.
Right.
It seems like the physical format is gaining traction to being something of importance again.
Right.
Maybe people are sick and tired of streaming. Maybe Wi-Fi costs are escalating and people just want something real that they can see and feel and listen to when they, when the mood strikes them.
Right. Well, I find that encouraging and interesting as well. So, you were saying that newly pressed vinyl is very expensive here. Has the record pressing industry come back in South Africa? Much?
No, not at
really.
all. Not at
So
all.
these are
no.
mostly foreign pressings that
all
you're
foreign
all
pressings.
foreign, yeah.
Even the local record labels that have vinyl pressed by some of our musicians
Right.
are all getting it done overseas. South Africa sold their record plant to Zimbabwe in the early 90s.
Okay.
And that was it for vinyl being pressed in South Africa, except for the odd what do you call it, lathe cutter. Except for the odd lathe cutter here and there,
I see.
there's no vinyl being pressed in South Africa
being-
yet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I know in the States, as things sort of started ramping up, the only machines available were old original machines that had been decommissioned or were still around.
Yeah.
So, at any rate,
I heard of someone from Germany, a girl who came in with her father, that he had decommissioned his vinyl cover press. He had a pressing plant for vinyl covers, quality German pressed vinyl covers.
okay.
He didn't sell his machine back in the day, but I think after more than 20 years, took off the covers, dusted it off, and is now running a lucrative business.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Well, I got anything that you want to share about your home here in Capetown, and I'll say we've been here about 10 days. It has just been a fantastic visit for my wife and I. We'd never been. We were just up on Table Mountain yesterday. I think I told you. That was just spectacular. And we've had some incredible meals here too, which really surpass, I think, anything we've had in our home city. So, what do you want to share about anybody that might come to Capetown, besides the fact that they need to come to Mabu Vinyl?
Yeah. Well, geez, I don't know, man. Cape Town's great.
Yeah.
I love Cape Town. I've loved it since I was born here.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to have been born here. I went to pre-primary, primary, and high school in this vicinity.
Really?
I plan on staying at the store for as long as I can operate.
Right.
And mountains, ocean, rivers, forests. It's all within a 5-10 minute driving radius. I mean,
Right.
no, this place can be really special, man.
Yeah. Well, and you've told me a couple times that you, at the end of your day, head off to skateboarding somewhere.
Yeah, we've recently, maybe it's already been 10 years, but we have recently also, the city of Cape Town built a skate park for us. So there are 1 or 2 now. We have places to skateboard. Obviously, we have places to surf.
Wow.
But that's been the best thing for skateboarders in this neighborhood forever. Because growing up in this neighborhood, skateboarding, there was nothing. We had to skate the streets. We had to just make do with what we had, build little ramps. And having a skate park that's just solid helps a lot.
Right. But so I don't know if I mentioned, I'm retired now, but I was an orthopedic surgeon for a number of years.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to ask, do you wear protective equipment when
No.
you skateboard?
No,
Nothing
I'm
at all?
a street skater.
Helmets? No?
No,
Okay.
I'm afraid not.
All right.
You'll see skateboarders throughout the world generally don't wear padding. It's one of those things. I can understand some of the pros wear helmets.
Yeah.
And they skate street with helmets, and I respect that. But I'd like to think that I wouldn't necessarily push my limits to a point where I crack my skull open skating street, doing something I've been doing for 35 years.
Yeah.
Once you can ride a bicycle, you can ride a bicycle. And then on some of the Olympic Games, competitions, qualifying competitions, I see that there's some pros. Most of them are padded up, doing ramps, doing high airs, but there's the odd guy who doesn't wear any pads, not even a helmet, and he's shooting 15 feet into the air.
Right.
So once you know how to fall, you know how to fall.
Oh, man.
And you're always a friend to pain. It becomes like second nature just to be sore somewhere.
God, there were a couple of good metaphors in there. You got to learn how to fall, and pain's a friend or something.
Pain's a friend.
Yeah, all right. I think those are worthy of. We can kind of maybe.
Come visit us in Cape Town.
It's a great history. I'll tell you, I've been in. This is now, I think, 6 stores. This is the second time I've been in yours, and I won't say that yours is. I don't want to kind of create animosity.
Yeah.
But I really like your store.
Thanks, man. Well, look, having a balcony on the first floor overlooking parts of the mountain and
Could be worse.
Yeah,
Could be
exactly.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
so
a
much
great
for your
pleasure,
time.
Rob. Thanks for the visit.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. All right, VC, here we are, and this is an incredible surprise and a great honor. I'm still here at Mabu Vinyl with Steven Sugarman, and anyone who has seen the movie Searching for Sugarman knows both his name and his face as one of the producers. Is that what your role was?
Not really. I was just involved in the making of the film, but I wasn't actually registered as a producer. I wish I had been, because then I might have got one of those gold Oscars, which I didn't, but I don't mind.
Yeah. But you were very instrumental in the search for for Rodriguez.
That's right.
And which ended successfully in finding him. Yeah.
Surprisingly, we thought he was dead.
I know.
Turned out he was alive.
I know.
And that started the whole new story.
Yeah. I watched the movie again last night, and I think I was telling you, being here in Cape Town in South Africa, I knew I wanted to find Rodriguez records, but what I didn't anticipate is sort of, relearning and really maybe learning for the first time some aspects of his story and how much he meant here to South Africans in the 70s.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And what was that like? You were, what age were you in the 70s?
Well, I was born mid-50s, so I was like 25.
Right.
But he was huge. People go, was he really that big? And you can stop people in the street. And I say, yes, of course he was, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, of course, the big song was Sugarman.
Right.
And as the story goes, Sugarman sounds a lot like Sugarman, and then
Right.
they used to call me Sugar.
Right.
And I was called that 20 years before this whole story ever happened.
Right.
Which
And that was a reference to that song.
100%.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think that's just a compelling story in itself.
Yeah.
And what was your take? And it's touched on in the movie a bit that there was somewhat of an influence on the culture of South Africa by the music that Rodriguez put out.
South Africa was very censored then under apartheid. They were very strict what came in. So anybody who was singing about political stuff or that kind of thing was a little bit censored. I mean, Dylan, you know, Pete Seeger, that kind of stuff. And Rodriguez had a lot of disguised lyrics about that sort of stuff. And it says in the movie that he influenced a lot of the whites thinking about changing a system. He had a mild effect on the black revolutionaries, the ANC guys. I know for a fact that certain of the top guys in the ANC and those guys listened to Rodriguez.
Right.
In fact, I heard a story that when we were fighting a war on the border, up in the border with Namibia, there was a river, and on one side of the river was a South African soldier, on the other side of the river was a guy fighting against South Africa. They were both listening to Rodriguez. So a lot of these stories have been coming out, and most of them are actually true. People have disputed them, but we found out a lot of stuff subsequently.
Yeah, yeah. And he was totally unaware of his fame here until you really contacted him. It seems
Yes.
like, yes.
Well, because he didn't get any money from here.
Yeah.
If he had got money, he would have known, and he didn't,
Right.
which is a whole different story, which is touched on in the movie.
Right.
But he really had no idea.
Yeah, right.
And he had been to Australia. He had toured Australia. He was very popular in
Right.
Australia. And there was another criticism of our movies. We don't mention that he was in Australia. But the important thing is it's the story of our search.
Right.
And we did not know that he was popular. It was just pre-internet.
Right.
We didn't know. If we had known, did you know Rodriguez toured Australia? Well, then he's alive. And we didn't know that, so we thought he was dead.
Right.
So it wasn't part of our movie. I'm sorry to Australia, but
Right.
to make your own movie.
Yeah, right. Hey, your story is your story. I read that online, that criticism, and I have to say I didn't quite,
It's fair, but it's not accurate.
love Australia, but
Yes.
yeah. So, and how many years was that in the making? It was
The film.
The search, and then the
The
subsequent
search,
film.
I don't know. I don't have those figures at my fingertips. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But the search was probably like a year or two until we actually discovered, and then he called me one night, and
Right.
you know, it was, and it's all a bit of a blur. But
Right. Right. You finally, I think you connected with his daughter, and then that night he called you, or
yes,
something?
we connected with Mark Theodore, who produced his album and said he's not dead. And then he gave us Eva's number, and we spoke to Eva, and then that night he contacted me.
That's just
And then he came here, and from then on, this became his second home. His daughter married a South African, Eva, and the roadie, and it was an incredible story. He
Right.
passed away a year ago, but as we like
I
to
know.
say, the first 40 years of his life were pretty lousy, but the second 40 years were fantastic.
yes, right,
And we're happy that that's how it works out for him. you know.
right.
If you're good at something, you don't give it up. If you play guitar, sing, write poetry, don't wait for the success. You do it because you do it.
Right.
And he's taught people a lot of that. You never know
Right.
when it's going to come, you know.
Right. Well, and it is one of the things that comes across is not just the disappointment, but kind of the surprise that he wasn't more successful in the States. And listening to his music now, and I had a CD back. I first became aware of him as a result of your movie. I didn't know anything about him as an American, and even as a devout record collector, he wasn't on my radar. And so when I saw your movie the first time, I went out and got his CD, and it is just striking. I mean, so the lyrics in particular, but also the performance. It is striking that he didn't catch on in the United States, and
Yeah.
I think some of it I was talking. One of the things that keeps emerging is I keep hearing that he was a person of deep humility, and I wonder if that personality to some extent, you know, he just didn't feel it was appropriate to put himself forward, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, because when his fame came, he was quite happy to go out on stage and perform.
Right.
I think it just never happened for him,
Yeah.
which is a good thing because it has happened now.
Yes.
But you know, when Malik, the director of our film, when I told him the story, he said to me that he had to listen to the record because if it wasn't that good, Cold Fact, then it's just not that good a story.
Right.
There are a lot of guys with good stories, but their records are not so good.
Right.
And when he heard Cold Fact, he said, wow, this is, and it is, people hear it and go, this, they listen to it on and over again.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it was actually the music. Without the music, it wouldn't have been such a great story.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I know, you know, I'm like I said, it's just so fortuitous to get a chance to speak to you, and I think your movie has made, you know, meant a lot to a lot of people. I know it's meant a lot to the history of this record store, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And
It was actually all just an advert for Mabu vinyl. And a promotional video.
So YouTubers collect records, listen to music.
Yeah,
There
we got so many visitors after we made the film who came to visit Mabu Vinyl.
Yeah.
I mean, one story I was at my house and my bell rang, and there was an old combi outside with two Chinese young guys who drove. They saw the film in China,
Yeah.
and they drove to South Africa from China, across
oh my
Europe,
God.
across Asia, across Europe, down Africa, to come and see us in the shop. So when I said, "Wow," I said, "Jacques, that is ridiculous."
And those
Yeah.
guys who bought a double-decker British bus and
And
drove through Africa to come and visit us in Cape Town.
You know what I mean? So with the resurgence in vinyl,
Yes, right.
we're just thrilled.
Yeah.
I mean, and this shop is still,
Thriving.
you know, it was up there and they put a building on top of it, but it kind of came here. There's a whole story of the shop, and it's moved to here,
Yeah.
and now it's strong. So we're just absolutely thrilled with everything, and we get to meet people like you who come all the way. So
Well,
we just love it all. So
yeah.
we're very happy. Thank
well,
you.
certainly it's an honor for me, and thank you both for taking some time. And you know, I hope I make it back over here. And if you ever come to Portland or Seattle, give me a ring.
We'll do.
Hey, nice one. Well done.
Thanks, Roy.
Okay. Hey. Okay. So didn't want to spoil the surprise, but it was really random in a way that I ran into Stephen Sugarman. And in that last interview, and of course he was instrumental in locating Sixto Rodriguez. To tell a little bit of the story, I found him by going online on the Rodriguez website, which turned out to be his website. He runs it. And I emailed, you know, contact us, and sort of explained my situation, that I was over in Cape Town. I'm a huge music fan and vinyl collector, and had kind of dug in on Rodriguez, and I watched the movie Searching for Sugarman again while I was over there. I'd seen that before, but really, you know, it'd been 10 years ago at least, and that was my first introduction to Rodriguez, and I bought a CD or two back in the day at that time. But I've never had any vinyl, and I honestly, I've barely seen it. I know I've seen one copy of Cold Fact in the US, and it was a sealed copy, and it was quite expensive, and I ended up passing on it down in Los Angeles a while back. But other than that, I don't remember ever seeing a vinyl copy of either of his original studio albums or anything else, really. So was able to locate all of that in Cape Town, and as I was finding it, I just became more and more interested in his story. And so again, long story short, I fired off an email to, it ended up being that it went to Stephen Sugarman, and when I went in to buy a couple more of his albums at Mabu Vinyl the next day, woo! Oh, here's a blue one. Oh, wait, oh, a yellow one. So some attractive vinyl stickers there. At any rate, I went in and met Jacques, who I also interviewed, and you saw, and he told me that Stephen had been in touch with him and said that I had emailed him and was available to come into the store, which he did. Unbelievable. So that's how that all came about. The end result of that was also that not only did I get vinyl, I got a copy of this book, by Stephen Sugar Sugarman and Craig Bartholomew Stridham, the two central figures in the search that successfully located Rodriguez and brought him his recognition finally in South Africa, where he was really a very influential figure. And not only did he give me a copy of the book, he signed it, and he said this was something Rodriguez did. So that's a peace sign attached to a heart, very cool little insignia, and so that was great fun. The records I found are also very interesting, and I didn't know fully the history of the release of these records in South Africa. This is his first studio album, Cold Fact, and the cover you can see is a bit stained. It's had some use and play over the years. It originally came out on A&M Records and Sussex, and Sussex was a subsidiary of A&M. This copy is well loved and quite worn, but that is an original pressing of Cold Fact. It's shortly after that, I think it came out in 71, and then in 74, there was this reissue, and this one you can see the cover is in much nicer shape, although still not perfect, but this is exclusively Sussex at this point, doesn't mention A&M, and there's the label for that one. And this album vinyl is in quite nice shape, and this has his biggest hit over there, Sugarman, and his moniker in the movie, and that's side one, track one. It's a really cool record. It's got a lot of production effects, which I thought was interesting, and of course the songs are just really and that's one last thing I'll say is, while I liked his music when I first encountered it on CD, I never really quite fell in love with it. But I really have to say, I mean, it really is just incredibly well done. So that was a revelation as well. Here's his second album, and again, this is a reissue label. This was initially called Coming From Reality, but this was that didn't sell as well in South Africa, and they reissued it with a different title, different cover. The cover is imitative of the cover of Cold Fact, with him in some sort of a spherical object. And they retitled it cleverly After the Fact, referencing Cold Fact, and took advantage of the success of that record, and it then sold quite well. And again, this is a Sussex pressing, South African pressing, second pressing for that album, in very nice shape. And then the last one I'll show is this one, The Best of Rodriguez. He was working on a third album that never saw the light of day, third studio album, and had some further tracks that had not recorded that had not appeared on the first two studio albums, and this has some of those at least. So it's a compilation from the first two records, but then it includes some further songs that were not on those. So that's what I found. That's also in very, very nice shape. So I have to say, on a personal level, I'm delighted with the results of how things went over there with respect to, other vinyl, as you've seen. I'm going to make one last vinyl record video highlighting some of the other finds and some of the other stuff we did. I think some of you have seen some of the safari videos. That was incredible. And I'm still trying to get a decent video of the shark cage diving, which was also an incredible experience. And we went up on the local geographical, I guess you'd call it high point. It's certainly, from the standpoint of elevation, it's the high point. It's called Table Mountain, but it's also a high point in terms of just the spectacular viewpoint it offers. So I'll highlight that in the next video, some of that. And this one I wanted to dedicate to the search for Sugarman, Sixto Rodriguez, that really kind of became the theme of the trip for me to South Africa. So until next time, hang in there, gang. The doctor is out.